How's it, guys? Welcome to the live stream. And in today, we're going to be discussing the current market conditions and whether or not I think that the market has topped out or not. So obviously, you can see at the moment that the market is quite bearish. But firstly, I want to introduce myself and let you know who I am. So I'm the host, Dylan Maynard. I'm a market analyst and trader at CoinW Exchange. I'm currently based in Dubai with over 5 years of trading experience. I started out with Forex before making the transition to actually trading cryptos around about 4 years ago. I currently manage a client portfolio valued around 75,000 US dollars, and my approach is always adaptive and proactive, ensuring that I stay ahead of the market trends. So that's enough about me. I'm sure you guys only joined to just go over the charts, and I'll go over all of them. And if you guys do have any questions, I can see that there is a chat box where you can post your questions there or any charts you want me to go over. So make sure you do that. So first off, I want to speak about the current overview of the market, and we can see that the market is looking very, very bearish. Okay. So obviously yesterday we had that massive move to the downside, and what I'm expecting within the next couple of days is more to the downside. So in order for us to actually take positions, we need levels to actually get broken. So I will be discussing those levels. And first off, let's take a look at Bitcoin. Okay. So Bitcoin is obviously the first coin that I want to go over because that is the driver of the market, right? That is what most of the altcoins are looking at, and whatever happens to Bitcoin, majority of the time happens to the altcoins. Okay, so let's take a look at Bitcoin for now. So first off, you can see that Bitcoin broke this level. So if you guys are in my Telegram, I know there's a lot of new faces here, but if you're not in my Telegram, you wouldn't have known that this is the level that we're looking at 29,300. So once we broke this level, I said we are looking to see price come back down to around about 28,600, and that's exactly what we got. And now what is happening is the market is forming these lower lows and lower highs, which means that we're in a downtrend, right? So once you discover what trend you're in, you can trade based on that. So you can see over here what is happening. It's forming these lows and highs, right? So if we start breaking this 28,600 level, then the next level really to look at is this zone over here, which is around about 27,600, 27,700. Okay, so in order for us to take a setup, right, we need price to obviously break the support. So at the moment, we can see that we are currently bearish, even looking on the 1 hour time frame. So that was on the 4 hour time frame. And on the 1 hour, it's showing that we need to break this level. And I'll be looking at potential short setups if we start breaking this zone. Okay. And if we don't break this zone, well, then I'm going to be looking for a potential long setup. But at the moment, we have to see how the next 1 hour candle closes. Okay. So if the 1 hour candle closes below this zone, well, then I'm going to be taking a short setup back down to 27,700. Okay. Because looking at the current condition, it's very, very obvious that we are bearish, right? So yeah, at the moment, currently just waiting for the setup. So if you guys, I can see that there is a chat box. Please put any charts you want me to go over. I will be going over those. It makes it more interactive, and you can obviously, a lot of people trade different coins, so I'll be going over those. So I've obviously picked a few coins for today's live, and potentially we can look at some setups to take in today's live. So make sure you stay to the end because normally we do catch a setup within a live stream. Okay. So this is the setup I am looking at for Bitcoin. We still need to wait for this confirmation. So at the moment, I want to look at a different coin. So looking at Cardano, Cardano is still looking very, very bullish. If you're looking at Cardano on the 4 hour chart, right, look how the price has been in the uptrend. Price has been trading, making higher highs and higher lows the whole time. And this is called an ascending channel. So essentially, sure, I'll go over ARB and FAL once I've done Cardano. So you can see with Cardano, this level that I've set over here, 0.4067, is the level to break in order for it to actually be bearish, right? Because currently we're still bullish. And what that means is price needs to break this 0.4067 in order for it to actually change the market structure. And if it doesn't break this zone, well, then we can still look for longs. And I do want to quickly go over the altcoin market cap. So essentially, this is called total 2. Okay, it takes all the altcoin market caps and it puts it into a combination. So you can see that the level was 614 billion, right? and that was the level of resistance. And I said on my Telegram group, we're looking at potential longs when we break that zone. So you can, on the daily chart, price broke this level. Once we broke it, you can see we got that massive move to the upside. So that was over here at around about 10th of April. So that was when the altcoin market cap actually broke. And now what is happening, it's finding it as support. So if this level actually loses, if it actually breaks this level to the downside, then we're going to be looking for that Bitcoin short and a lot of other shorts. Okay, so it's very, very important to actually look at this chart because it shows you such a important level for the altcoins. Okay, once this level breaks, then we're looking for shorts. But if it holds this level, then we can look for long. So we would need to see how the daily level closes, and if it closes bullish, then we will be taking a setup. Okay, but we have to wait for the daily closure for that. Okay, so someone said ARB. I did actually put ARB here, so I will be going over ARB and Filecoin. So let's take a look at ARB first off, and then we'll go over Filecoin. So looking at ARB at the moment, right? Obviously, this was the new coin that got added to CoinW, and a lot of people were trading it. It had the most volume for around about a week. And what I'm expecting for ARB is very, very similar in terms of the whole market, right? So we are still currently bearish, okay? And what ARB is showing me right now is that there's only one level that it really needs to break, okay? Once we actually start breaking this level over here at around about 1.4673, then I'll be taking a short setup, okay? So once we break this level on the 4-hour chart, we can look for shorts back down to this zone at 1.36, 1.3466, okay? And that's around about an 8-9% increase in terms of your profit. So this would be more of a long-term time frame trade. So you should obviously use your appropriate risk management and maybe go for the lower leverage side of things and more of a swing position, okay? So this won't be a scalp trade. It will be a swing trade, okay? So what that means is you want to be holding it for a couple hours or a couple days. So this is something to look at. I would suggest looking at this trade because it's a very, very nice setup. And obviously, if the altcoin market cap, closes below that 6.4 billion level, well, then ARB is going to come back down to 1.3466, okay? Because essentially, there's quite a bit of imbalance at this zone. And what does imbalance mean? Well, imbalance is basically when there's neither resistance or support traded within a candle. You can see that this green candle needs to get filled. So what normally happens is price normally comes back down and fills this range before we see a move up to upside, okay? So that's what I'm expecting for ARB at the moment. If we take a look at the 1-hour chart, you can see how the 4-hour and the 1-hour chart corresponds with the support, okay? So that is also something that when you trade, right, you need to understand that the higher time frames need to match with the smaller time frames in order for your position to actually be valid, okay? If it doesn't match, well then you should be looking at a different setup. So this setup I'm still looking at for ARB, and I'll be taking it on the 1-hour time frame because the 1-hour time frame corresponds with the 4-hour chart. So looking at a potential 8.5 to 9% decrease in this trade, and your stop loss would have to be above this wick at around about 1.5386. Okay, so this is more of a swing position, like I said. So just make sure you put these levels on your chart. It is very, very basic trade, and I will expect this to happen if we see more of the bearish scenario. Okay, I see some person put in FAL. So I'll go over FAL. I actually do enjoy trading FAL most of the time. It is one of my favorite coins to trade. So let's go over that. Yeah, if you guys have any other coins, just put them in the chat. So FAL is very interesting, and I actually spoke about this chart yesterday in my Telegram group. Okay, I actually took a trade based on the bounce. Okay, so with FAL, what's very, very important is it was trading in this uptrend, right? Making these higher highs and higher lows. And then what happened yesterday, we had that massive, that squeeze where all the longs got liquidated. I think there was around about 240 million liquidations in terms of dollars yesterday. So there was a lot of long liquidations to the upside, which obviously means that when people put their stop loss below support and level. So people's stop losses were at around about 5.951, okay? And once this level broke, you can see how we had that massive move to the downside. So that's something to note. Whenever you see a level like a support get broken, it's probably because the lot of people are putting their stop losses at that level. So you can see our price actually just fell straight through that zone. And when you draw the Fibonacci tool from your swing low to your swing high, you can see that where did it bounce from? It bounced from exactly the 0.618 level. So I actually took a trade yesterday based on this level, because normally what actually happens is price, I mean, it's still in an uptrend in a way, right? Price is still, still respecting the support at, 5.681. So I took a long setup based on that. And what I'm expecting, within today is a potential retracement back up to this support zone, which will now be resistance, right? Back up to 5.948, okay? And if that happens, you can look at potential shorts to the downside, okay? So that is a setup I'm looking at for Filecoin, but I do want to take a look at the lower time frames here. So if we look at the 1 hour chart, what is actually happening now is price is getting rejected from the zone, okay? So what happens when you get a rejection, you can see the last 3 hours, price is tapped into this 5.851, and we've got a rejection from the zone. So in order for us to take short positions, we need to see either a bearish candle closure below here, or we see a closure below the previous support, okay? So I'll be looking at shorts below this level over here, which was our previous support. And if price breaks this zone, and if it closes below this area, then I'll be taking a setup. But if it doesn't close below this area, then I'm just going to be waiting patiently, okay? For the long scenario, this is our previous resistance, okay, at 5.838, okay? And when you look left, right, whenever you're trading, you always have to look left to identify if these levels that you're drawing on the current price action are valid, right? So if price breaks above this zone at 5.838, then we can look at potential long setups. But it has to actually close above there. If it doesn't close above this zone, then it's not valid. So at the moment, we just need to be patient here. And this is the setup I'm looking at, something like this for the long scenario. And then for the short scenario, I'm still going to be looking on the higher time frame for the short scenario at the moment, okay? So once we actually break below, once we close above this level at 5.838, and we hit this level at 5.959, I'll be taking a short position back down to the support. So this is a setup that I'm looking at, potential 2 trades within within a couple of days. So taking longs above 5.838, expecting more of a retracement, because normally when you have an imbalanced candle, like I said earlier, we do normally fill that range, okay? So if that had to happen, well, then we could take a setup based on that. So these are the 2 setups I'm looking at for Filecoin. But remember, for the long setup, we have to see that 1 hour candle closure. And I always tell my Telegram group, if you don't wait for the 1 hour closure or the candle to actually close above the level, we're just going to see wicks hitting that zone, right? And you need to be trading based on the candle closures. Alternatively, another setup would be a short position below the support. Once we actually break below here, then we can take that setup back down to this next Fibonacci level at around 5.461, okay? So yeah, there is a couple of setups looking at for Filecoin. Filecoin looks very, very good. You can see it is more on the bearish side. We actually broke this support, and now we're trading in a current range. So this is the range that we're looking at. And yeah, that's something I'm looking at for Filecoin. So APT is also a chart that I've been looking at. This is the scenario that I'm looking at for APT. To be honest, I thought APT would bounce to this zone yesterday, so I posted this in the chat and said I'm expecting price to retrace back to around about 11.9957 before we get that move down. But alternatively, we can still look for the setup, right? Because what it's showing to me on the 4 hour chart, we haven't as of yet seen a retracement. So we're currently at support, right, at 11.1952. So this is our support zone. And what is happening at the zone, we're seeing a bounce. And whenever we see a bounce, that means that price normally retraces, okay? So if we look at the 1 hour chart, it's very, very choppy. And what that means is price action is struggling to find if there's more longs in the market or if there's more shorts in the market. So we need to just be patient. Otherwise, it's gambling. We need to wait for price to actually touch certain zones in order for us to make a decision. Okay, so that's the setup I'm looking at for APT. Alternatively, we could look for potential longs back up to the zone. If you look on the 1 hour chart, we do have a level of resistance at the zone over here, right? So at 11.4599, right? If price actually closes above this zone, because if you looking left over here, price never closed above the zone, but got respected, okay? Once we closed above, where did price go to? Price came back to 11.9957, okay? So that is a setup I'm looking at as well for the long side. Same with Filecoin, right? I want to be taking positions to the upside and then positions back down, okay? So yeah, let's see what happens. I mean, it's something that I'm looking at. These are all just trade ideas. I will be going to Ethereum and Bitcoin just now to see if we can maybe get a setup based on the 5 minutes and the 15 minute. But I just wanted to go over a couple of the altcoins so you guys can see if you can take a setup based on the daily and the 4 hour candle closures, right? So yeah, at the moment, I'm not in any current positions. I'm just being patient. So I do want to quickly speak about Dogecoin. Dogecoin looks very, very interesting. And what's interesting about Dogecoin is that this is the level that I've been speaking about. So price has been respecting this level multiple times. Price tapped into the zone, came down, right? Tapped into the zone, came down. Broke out of this zone, came back in, and now we are retesting this level, right? So Dogecoin still looks quite strong, to be honest. And what I'll be looking at for Dogecoin, this is on the daily time frame. I'll be looking at a potential long above 0.09608, okay? And this will be based on the higher time frame chart. And this is the target, right? If Dogecoin manages to break above this level, and if we look back at the altcoin market cap, right, the total two, if the total two tomorrow on the daily time frame closes above 614 billion, then Dogecoin could actually go back up to 0.14284, which is around about a 50% increase, okay? So we do need to wait for, obviously, the candle closures on the daily time frame. This is more of the higher time frame swing trading positions. So if you're a swing trader, you can apply your leverage, your low leverage, around about 10 leverage, and then put your stop loss at a reasonable area. You would have to put it below 0.8376 and just let the trade ride out and hopefully look at a potential target of 0.14284, okay? So as long as, like I said earlier, right, as long as this level for the altcoin market cap holds, because currently it's retesting the zone. But if it loses this level, well then that Dogecoin setup is invalid, right? So we need to see how this candle closes within tomorrow. So there's 14 hours and 40 minutes left until we see that closure. Once we close above the zone, so it looks like my screen went off there. There we go. Yeah, so for Doge, for the altcoin market cap, right? We are currently at this level of at 619 billion, right? And our level that we need to hold is 614. So for Dogecoin to actually, be bullish here, we need to see the altcoin market cap stay above the zone. If it breaks below and closes below 614, well then it will be obviously bearish for the altcoins, okay? So as long as the altcoin market cap stays above the zone, I'm still bullish in terms of the higher time frames. But on the lower time frames, it is looking like price is taking a bit of a hit. And obviously, we need to be cautious of that. But Dogecoin, this setup is looking very good for the higher time frames. So yeah, make sure you guys also put your coins in the chat. I see the one guy put ARB and Filecoin. We did go over that. If you have any other coins that you like to trade on CoinW, just put them on the chat and we can go over them. So what I'll do is just now I'm going to go over on Bitcoin and ETH on the smaller time frames, and I'll tell you exactly what I'm looking at on the smaller time frames. I just want to cover all the altcoins because I know a lot of people trade the altcoins more than Bitcoin and ETH. So I just want to cover all of those. And once we cover them, we can go back to Bitcoin and ETH just now. So I do want to go over another chart that I've been looking at, and it's very interesting. there is a setup I am looking at for Solana, right? Solana has been very interesting. I actually caught a nice setup yesterday in my Telegram group. It was a sell position. Obviously, the market was bearish yesterday, and this is what we actually took. So we took a trade based on this level here. I was expecting price to tap into, the 23.81 level. This was the zone I was looking at, 23.81, but it actually tapped in this resistance at. So if you see on the chart, yeah, there was a resistance at 23.43. So we actually tapped into that zone before we came down. Okay, so this was around about a 4% move. Very nice setup, and your stop loss is just above this wick here. So your risk to reward was around about 1:5. So currently for Solana, I'm currently just waiting for this level of support here. You can see that once Solana actually breaks 22.44, we're gonna see a massive move to the downside. Okay, so this is something that I'm looking at. It's around about 11% move to the downside. So let's see what happens here. I mean, we do have to wait for the higher time frame candles to close. I mean, this is based on the 4-hour time frame. So if the 4-hour time frame closes below 22.44, you can see that I've said here we're looking for sells below this zone. So what I'd suggest you guys do is put these levels on your charts, and once you see a candle on the 4-hour time frame close below here, you can just do a market execution and sell it based on the current candle closure. You won't have to wait for any top wicks or price at all, because look what's happening to the left here. All of this imbalance needs to get filled. Okay, so once we actually close below here, we're going to see a massive move to the downside below 20. So that's something I'm looking at for Solana. And obviously at the moment, I'm not in any setups. Yeah, so Chainlink was another setup I'm looking at. So you can see how these charts are actually forming at support, right? So this 0.618, if you guys don't know how to draw the Fibonacci tool, I would suggest, I can explain it now quickly if you would like. So essentially you draw it from your swing low to your swing high. So if you're in an uptrend, you draw it from the swing low. So you can see our swing low was at 7.102. Swing high is at 8.763. You take it from the low, you take it to the high, and all these levels that are printing on the chart. So you can see we have a 0.382, we have a 0.5, and we have a 0.618. So these are the main levels, whereas the 0.236 is not really a level to look at, and the 0.786 is not also a level to look at. So I'll be focusing on the 0.382, the 0.5, and the 0.6. Took a setup yesterday based on the 0.6 retracement. Price tapped into the zone. Look what happened. Price could never break below this area, right? And that's something that I was looking at yesterday. Price could not break below the zone. So I took a long position at the zone. I took profit a bit early, but we can see there is a short setup that I'm looking at here. Very nice short setup. At around about this zone, 7.950. Okay, and if price actually touches this area, I will be taking a short setup based on the fact that it's more of a retracement. Okay, and you can just target the lows. You could potentially target these areas at 7.468, but what I'll do, I would target the lows at 7.740. Okay, so yeah, very important to wait for this to actually happen. You don't want to be jumping into longs now. We could look at the 30-minute time frame to see if there is a setup, but you can just see that there is a resistance here, and I wouldn't want to be taking a long setup based on this. We would need to see a candle closure above here to take a setup, but what I'll be waiting for is more on the short side. If price taps into the zone at 7.950, then we can take a short setup based on that. Okay, so yeah, very interesting for Chainlink. This is a trade that I will definitely take, and yeah, it looks very good. The 4-hour candle hasn't really retraced as of yet, and I'm just expecting price to tap into the zone and we get a move back down. Okay, so those are the current charts I'm looking at the moment. I do want to take a look at the dollar index quickly. And what is very interesting is the dollar index. I spoke about it yesterday. Price cannot break below here. Okay, so we tapped into the zone over here yesterday at around about 101.5, 101.6, and we couldn't break below there. So that means that because we at current support, we're going to see a potential bounce on the dollar, which means we're going to see a dump in Bitcoin, right? Because they're inversely correlated to one another. If the dollar goes up, Bitcoin goes down. If the dollar goes down, Bitcoin goes up, right? So you need to make sure that you're actually looking at the dollar, because what the dollar is going to tell you is if there's political events happening and the dollar, like let's just say there's a CPI data comes out, right? That's going to affect the dollar, which is going to affect Bitcoin inversely, right? So you need to be looking at all these different charts to understand what is actually happening in the market. So at the moment, you can see that this is the resistance that we were looking at. If price actually breaks above this trend line, we're going to see massive shorts in the market for the crypto markets. And at the moment, the 4-hour candle is looking quite bullish for the dollar. So we need to be cautious here on the long side. That's why I'm more on the short side, but we are looking at some retracements. So yeah, like I said earlier, as long as the altcoin market cap stays above the 614 billion mark, well then it's all good in terms of the long side of things. Okay, so this is, if you guys just joined, this is the setup I was looking at for Bitcoin. This is a very, very clean setup, very nice setup, and obviously we bearish. We broke this 29,345 level, and once we actually start breaking 28,600, which is our resistance from around about 30th of March, 1st of April, 5th of April, and the 30th of March. So this was our resistance, and now what is happening is yesterday we actually made it support. Okay, so whenever you have resistance in the past price actually comes down and taps into that and forms a support level. Okay, so I'm going to be looking at sells below the zone. If we see a 1 hour or a 4 hour candle closure below 28,600, I'm going to take shorts back down to 27,700. Okay, so very, very interesting. This is the setup I'm looking at for Bitcoin. I do want to go into the lower time frames to see if we can actually make any trades within the session. Normally we do take a setup within a session, but I don't like trading range markets. More so, I like trading with the trend. But what I can see here is, for the long side of things, there is a trend line that is forming right now. Okay, so based on this, we could actually look for a potential long setup before we take this sell, right? So let's see what happens here. I mean, I'm looking at this in terms of maybe if we see a break above here, we can look at potential long back up to 29,300. Okay. Your stop loss would have to be below this wick, but on the 15-minute, we need to see price actually close above this resistance here. Okay, so if price closes above this resistance at 28,925, well then I'm going to take a long setup back up to 29,300, and then I'll be looking at a short setup as well at that zone. So that's based on the 15 minutes. You can see on the 15-minute, right, price is tapping into the zone multiple signs. So this is your downward sloping resistance line, okay? And once we start breaking this, we will trade the breakout. I do enjoy trading a breakout more than a range market. So I don't like buying at support and selling at resistance is obviously good, right? I'd rather prefer a range breakout or a trend line breakout. So yeah, that's something I'm looking at the moment. Let's see what happens. So we need to wait for the 15-minute candle to actually close above the zone. Once we see the 15-minute candle close above 28,925, well then I'll take longs based on that. Okay. So yeah, that's the current setup I'm looking at for Bitcoin. I will look at Ethereum quickly. I haven't looked at Ethereum as of yet. So let's take a look at Ethereum. Let me grab this chart. Yeah, so yesterday, in my session yesterday, I was saying that, we obviously bearish out, and I was expecting this to happen. So price was over here, and I was expecting price to tap into this 1920 zone, and we actually tapped in 1924, 1922. So yeah, it was a very, very nice setup that I gave in the chat yesterday. And that is the level that, people are putting longs in the market, because essentially what is happening, right, is this was our resistance in the past. And what happens in the past, we actually come back down and form a support. Okay, so whenever you have resistance in the past, price normally acts as a support at that level. Okay, so what I'm going to be waiting for is obviously the same thing for Ethereum. You know, if we close below 1915, 1910, take shorts back down to 1835, right? So yeah, that's the setup I'm looking at. If you look at the lower, that's on the 4-hour chart. If we look at the lower time frames, what we can see here is a potential long setup actually for Ethereum here. So if we look in the 30 minutes, yeah, 30-minute chart is showing a potential long setup before we actually see a move to the downside. If price actually closes above this level over here on the 30 minute, 19.5835, you know, we can take longs back up to 2000, okay? That would be a setup I'm looking at right now. So it's around about a 2% move. Obviously, you take partial profits on the way up. So what I mean by that is you take 50% of your position out at certain levels, right? So at this level over here, we can see there's a support at 1975. So you actually want to be taking out potential profits at that zone, okay? So yeah, this is something I'm looking at. If we look at the 15-minute chart, yeah, it's the same thing. So a 15-minute or 30-minute candle closure would be good to take longs above here. Same thing with Bitcoin. I think it's showing the same chart, whereas we're looking for a 15-minute candle closure above, you know, 28,925. So these are the two current setups that I'm looking at on the lower time frame. Obviously, the higher time frame is showing the bearish structure, but that is why you can actually trade the lower time frames to make the most of the current intraday trades. Because I'm more of a short-term trader, right? I don't really trade longer time frame charts, but I look at the higher time frame to make my decisions. So what I'm expecting is a retracement, which we can expect on the lower time frames, and that is what we currently going to trade. And if it doesn't happen, well, we're going to see this setup happen on the higher time frame. So yeah, let's see what happens here. Ethereum's tapping into the zone already, so we need to see a breakout of this area at 1959. Once we see a breakout of the zone, we'll take longs back up to 1975 and potentially back up to 2000. But yeah, those are the current setups I'm looking at. If we come back to crypto bubbles, this is the charts I actually use to see all the coins. If we look at the 15 minutes, you can see a lot of coins are retracing, right? So this is obviously in line of what we're looking at. We're looking at more of the bullish side on the lower time frames, but on the higher time frames, you know, we're looking at the bearish side of things. So yeah, let's see what happens here. If we break above this 1959 level, then I'm looking at a potential setup. So yeah, let's see what happens. So I will put these charts, I will keep these charts open while we wait for that setup. If we catch this trade within the live, that will be good. But if we don't, it might happen after. But just make sure that you have these charts on your screen, okay? So yeah, I will be looking at a couple other charts while we wait for these setups to actually play out. Let's take a look at Matic. Yeah, Matic, this was a setup I gave in the chat yesterday, right? It came back up to this level, so I was expecting the retracements, and what actually happened is we, you know, hit the zone at 1.0860, which was the area that I was targeting, right? Because on the higher time frames, look where that is, okay? This level right now was the level I was looking at, because what happened at the zone is we get a bounce from the zone. We get bounces from the zone. So I'm expecting the lower time frames to retrace and the higher time frames obviously to retrace a little bit, but you know they're more on the bearish side of things. So for Matic at the moment, let's take a look at this. We could potentially look for a potential setup here. We do have this resistance over here, which was support in the past. over here at 1.0940. Okay, so Matic potential longs above the zone. We do need to wait for the 1 hour closure though. Once we wait for the 1 hour candle closure, then we can take longs above the zone. But if we don't see the 1 hour candle closure, well then obviously we're not going to take the setup. So it's all based on the 1 hour for this Matic trade, okay? And obviously if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But this is what I'll be looking at for Matic, okay? So I just want to go back to Bitcoin and ETH, see what's happening. Let's see. The dollar is obviously it is bullish within the day, so that's why I'm more on the bearish side. But these small retracements can definitely happen within the 15 and the 5-minute chart. So let me go back to Ethereum just to see what's happening there, because we are looking for that long setup. So currently it's still finding resistance at the zone. So but now it's it's looking like we might break this area. Okay. So if the 15-minute candle actually closes above the zone, well then we're gonna take a trade, a long position, right? And once we take a long position, we're gonna look at taking profit at 1975, which is a resistance / support, and a potential take profit at 2000. But what I'll do is I'll take 50% of the trade outside that level, and then put your stop loss to break even. So then it's a risk-free trade. Okay. Yeah. So it's more of Bitcoin and ETH that we're looking at. So Bitcoin waiting for that trend line break, and then Ethereum just waiting for a simple support break and a closure. Okay. So let's see what happens here. The 5-minute charts, obviously, there is a level, there is a trend line over here on the 5. So if we're looking like this, right, there is a level that is happening over here. So as long as this level holds for Ethereum, we can take longs. But if this level breaks to the downside, we could look at shorts. So on the 5-minute, it's showing that we could take some shorts below potentially this level on the 5. Okay. So you can see how just going into the different time frames, it does show a few different setups. Okay. So obviously the higher time frames, like the 15-minute route, we're looking at a long setup, whereas the 5 minutes, we're looking more on the short setup below here. So if it closes below this level here on the 5 at 1948, we can take longs. And obviously if it closes above this level, 1959, on the 15 minutes, we can take long setups. Okay, so shorts based on the closures below 1948, and then longs based on the closures above 1959. So yeah, those are the two setups I'm looking at for Ethereum, and then obviously the Bitcoin setup, we're waiting for this to happen. So obviously if it doesn't happen, well then it doesn't happen, right? These are all just trade ideas. So, but I'm sure within today, at least one of these setups will happen. So if you want to chart these out on your chart, I would suggest you do so. So this is the 5-minute setup we're looking at for Ethereum, back down to these lows. We do need to see a closure below there. So this is the current setups we're looking at. Yeah, I mean, it's looking like we are getting a bounce at this level here. So this is, like I said, the altcoin market cap. We are seeing that bounce. So that's why I'm expecting a retracement. So it looks like Ethereum is looking to break out the zone here. So we have to wait for the 5-minute closure. Also Bitcoin, still struggling a bit. But Ethereum looks like it might be breaking out of the zone. So if we see the closure above here, then we take the trade. We don't want to be jumping in now, because essentially what can happen is price can actually get rejected from the zone. So we want to be trading the candle closure rather than just trading right now, because it can just get rejected. Okay, so yeah, let's see what happens. You can see at the moment that price is still just rejecting. So this is why we don't just jump in. We wait for the closure. Okay, so it looks like we might actually get a setup within today. Yeah, we still have like 20 minutes until the session ends, but it doesn't really have to end. But that is something I'm looking at for the 15-minute time frame. Okay, so let's wait and see if we actually close above there. And if we don't, well, then we could look at a sell position, and I'll be taking sells below 1948 because that is your support. So let's actually see how this plays out. Be interesting. But the 5-minute looks like it really wants to break above the zone. So if the 50-minute does close above here, we're going to take some longs back up to 1975. We could potentially hold to 2000, but I do think that we might see a rejection because essentially we are creating these lows, right? This is a low, this is another low, right? So we might just see a move back up here and then a move like this. And if that happens, that's why you want to be taking profit at that zone. If you want to hold to 2000, it could potentially go up to here, but it's not a guarantee. I would think that price would tap into this zone first and maybe get rejected from that zone. So that's why you want to be taking profit at that level, okay? And then for Bitcoin, also looking for potential breakout here. So this on the 15. So let's see, we need to see how this 15-minute candle closes. There is 3 minutes left until the closure. And obviously if it closes above this zone, we will take some long positions. If it doesn't close above, then we just be patient and wait. If you're looking left here, we can see we haven't been at this area. There's not really much resistance at the zone. So the only resistance really is the one that we've just formed currently, okay? So that's the only resistance that's holding that zone, okay? So we do need to see what's happening. But I mean, at the moment, it's kind of getting rejected from the zone. The 5-minute is struggling to close above here. So if it doesn't close above, we won't be in positions. Same with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's also struggling to break this trend line. So we do need to wait for that. I'm going to move this line a bit up because it wasn't on the closure. When you draw your resistance and support zones, you have to draw it to the candle closure because that's what's going to determine if it's actually a breakout or a fake out. Okay. The problem is also if you look at the US 100, right? We know that the US 100 is, directly proportional to Bitcoin and all the cryptos. You can see that it's actually currently in a downtrend right now. So on the 4-hour chart, it's looking quite bearish, and the 4-hour candle is actually closing in 17 minutes. So yeah, the Ethereum trade, if it actually had to work out, it would be a very, very short-term time frame trade because I'm still bearish on the day. And obviously, there's a lot of factors that are leaning toward more on the bearish side. I mean, the dollar index, we can look at the dollar index quickly. Let's take a look at the dollar index because obviously we were looking at that and it was pumping a bit earlier, okay? So not pumping, but it was, coming back up. So, obviously if the NASDAQ is bearish and the dollar is bullish, crypto is technically going to be bearish, right? So you need to start thinking like that and combining all of these scenarios within one trade. So yeah, let's see what happens here. The 15-minute candle is what we're waiting for. And that is pretty much the deciding factor if we're going to go long or not. So yeah, we're not going to go long if it just closes like this. We need to see the closure above 1959.27. And that's based on the Ethereum Binance chart, right? So obviously we need to wait for that setup. And there's 1 more minute left, so it doesn't look like we're going to close below there. I mean above there. So let's see. Bitcoin also looked like we're getting rejected from the zone. I mean on the 5 minutes you can see that this trend line that we've drawn is acting as a really, really good resistance zone. So like I said earlier, right, if we might not get a setup now, but these setups that I've drawn in the earlier session where I'm looking at a short between 28,600 on the 4-hour time frame, I'm potentially looking at a short back down to 27,700. Okay, you can see once we break below the zone, we're going to see quite a bit of move to the downside. So yeah, very interesting. 20 seconds left until the 15-minute candle closes. And what's important here is, like we've said, we do need to see that closure. And if we don't see that candle closure, we're not going to take long positions. I don't care if it pumps back up to 1975. It's just because of the fact that we haven't closed above. This is a resistance zone. So it was previously support, and it's currently still holding. So yeah, we're not going to take a trade now. We need to wait for that closure to happen. If we close above here, then we can take trades. But looks like it keeps on getting rejected from the zone. So yeah, I mean those are the setups. I will run through the setups again on the higher time frames, but it looks like we are currently just ranging within the day, and the short setup for Ethereum is something like this, right? So I'm not going to be taking a short now because essentially what could happen is price could actually break above this level and close on the next 15-minute, and then we take longs, right? So it's important to wait for the closure. If the candle closes below here at 1948.27, then I'm going to take shorts back down to the lows. So you can just see how just waiting for the closures are very, very important. If you don't wait for that, you're just going to trade within the wicks, and you don't want to be trading within wicks. You want to be trading within the bodies of the candles rather than the actual wicks. So yeah, that's the current setup that I'm looking at. Let's take a look here quickly. Yeah, you can see earlier most of these were up about 1%, and you can see how they're starting to come back again. So the retracement could be over. So that's why we could look at the short side of things. And obviously, Ethereum, for example, is at a resistance zone. So that is normally where price retraces to. Same with Bitcoin. It's at a resistance zone. So we're looking at shorts more so now. We were looking at longs. We can still look at longs if we get a candle to close above these zones. But if not, obviously, we're not going to take a setup. So yeah, let's see. But yeah, like I said, you can see there's quite a lot of people in here. If you guys do have any other charts you want me to go over, just put them in the chat, and I can go over them. And if you have any questions based on like my strategy or my setups, you can ask them in the chat. I don't mind going over why I do a setup. I have explained most of it, but if you don't understand, I can go over it again if you would like me to. But yeah, at the moment, we're not really seeing much. But obviously in the higher time frames, we're seeing a lot. So yeah, we can potentially just trade the higher time frames, which is something that I like doing because there's more confidence, right? And if you trade the higher time frames, like the 4-hour chart, you're gonna see more of a movement, right? It might take a longer time, but you'll catch more of a bigger move. So I'm prepared to take the setup below 1948, back down to the support at 1921, and then a potential another shorts on the higher time frames. If we get a 4-hour candle closure between below 1915 back down to 1835, okay. So yeah, I mean initially we're looking for longs, but we didn't close above, and that's why we're not going to take that setup. So yeah, on the 5-minute chart, what I am seeing here is this trend line, okay. So Ethereum is forming this ascending wedge, and if price actually closes below here, we're going to take the sells back down. So yeah, that's something I'm looking at on the 5-minute chart. But yeah, don't you guys have any other coins you want me to go over? I think you can just type in the chat. There is a lot of people. There's over 500 people in here, so I'm sure one of you guys have a chart that you want me to go over. There is a lot of charts to cover. There's over 450 altcoins, but what I would like is maybe just to pick out of the 30 futures coins that we trade, because we obviously trading futures, right? So yeah, I mean I can pick a few other coins, but if I would like to go over coins that you guys would like. But yeah, I mean at the moment we're just currently waiting. Cardano is actually forming a beautiful wedge over here. If you're looking at Cardano now on the 15-minute chart, I didn't actually see this earlier. Okay, so this is what's holding Cardano up. So Cardano is trying to break this level, okay? And what's interesting here is we do have a support at the zone on the 15. So this support over here is what's holding price up at 0.4167, okay? So if price actually closes below the zone, we can take sells for Cardano, right? So 88 is Cardano. Just so if you guys are confused what I'm saying. ADA is just Cardano. It's just the abbreviation. It's the token name of the coin. So I will be taking a small position here, a short position. Please, can you check? Yeah, sure. I'll go over ARB. I did go over ARB earlier, but I'll definitely go over it again. I'm gonna go over all the setups as well. So Cardano, look at this setup. Wait for the 15-minute candle to close below 0.4167, and then you can take a setup. So let's go over ARB. Let's see what's happening here. Yeah, so this is what I'm looking at for ARB. I'm looking at a sell, and what's interesting here is this is the current setup, okay? We have a support on the 1 hour at 1.4673, okay? And what's interesting about the support is we haven't... Wait, let me just... My chart froze. Just hold on. Oh, there we go, it's back. Okay, yeah. So you can see my screen again. So my setup for ARB is just the support at 1.4673, right? So what's important here is we have a level that price has not yet closed below, right? So because we haven't closed below here, then we can't really look for shorts. But if we close below this level on the 1 hour chart, so I'll zoom in here just so you can see, if we close below here on the 1 hour chart, then we can take a short setup. But if we don't close below here on the 1 hour chart, this is what's going to happen, right? Price is just going to react like it did yesterday. Price taps into the zone, we get a bounce. Taps into the zone, we get a bounce. Okay? Tapped into this zone over here, we get a bounce. So once we actually close below the zone, then we can take some short setups. But until then, we have to be patient. So if we're looking at the 15 and the 30 minute, we can kind of see what's happening over here, that this is our level of resistance on the 30 minute here. And then we have a little bit of support at 1.4940, but I'll be waiting for the closure below 1.4673 to obviously take a short setup. I'm sure you can see my screen now. Yeah, that was just it just froze for a little bit. So yeah, I'm looking for a short below 1.4673, back down to 1.3466. Okay, so yeah, that is the current setup I'm looking at, because this is also based on the 4 hour chart. So looking at the 4 hour chart, look at this level over here. So this whole range between 1.46 and 1.34, there's a lot of imbalance there. So what normally happens is price fills that before we see that move, okay? So yeah, I mean, it's something that I'm looking at, definitely looking for a short. I mean, if we're looking at the dollar index, like I was saying, and the US 100, we are more on the bearish side, okay? So shorts below this level, and what you can gain from this, it will be more of a swing trade. So the 1 hour and the 4 hour chart is printing around about an 8.5% trade, okay? So it's quite a big trade, something that I'm looking at. And yeah, Bitcoin also waiting for this setup on the lower time frames here. So yeah, that's currently what I'm looking at. There's not much else. I've gone through around about 7 different charts. If you guys do have any more charts you want me to go over, I will be going over them. But these are the current setups. If you guys have just joined, essentially what I'm saying is the altcoin market cap is currently at support at 614.7 billion, right? And what is actually happening is we are holding this level. So if price starts closing below the 614 level, then we on the bearish side. But because we're not closing below here, we're going to see a bit of a bounce. So yeah, until we close below here, we might see a potential decrease on the altcoin market cap of around about another 6%. So that's going to send a lot of coins back down to new lows, yeah? But we don't really need to look at that. That's more in terms of the higher time frame view. But on the lower time frames, we are looking at potential sells Also potential long here for Bitcoin, but it needs to break above 28,925. And if it doesn't break above there, sure, I'll go over EOS. I don't really trade EOS, but we can have a look at it. Let's take a look at EOS. So EOS took a hit here. Interesting. So what's interesting about EOS here, what I can see off the bat, is that, you know, we have had this level over here, okay? So this was a level that was obviously holding. So if you draw this over here, this was the level that needed to break, okay? So once you get a closure above here, what normally happens is, so this is our trend line, price is tapping into the zone, taps into the zone, we get a break, and what actually happens is price retests this level, takes sells back down to support, okay? So obviously this zone over here is the next level of like retracement potentially. Over here, this level over here would be the next retracement zone at around about 1.160, okay? And if price actually comes back up to the zone, you could definitely take some sells back down. But that's on the 4-hour chart. So what I would do is you could look at a limit order where you put a sell here. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But it's something that you could look at, okay? If you look at the 1-hour chart, 1-hour charts, you know, it's a bit choppy. So like I said earlier, we need to wait for confirmations, okay? So on the 1-hour chart, what I can see here for EOS is a potential move to the upside, okay? A potential move to the upside before we see a move to the downside. A bit of a retracement, right? We do need to see a closure above the zone at 1.115, okay? If we see price close above here, then we can take some long positions back up to these highs. I wouldn't aim to come back up to this level, but you could close half at around about 1.135, and then obviously, you know, leave the rest to that level, okay? And then obviously the sell scenario would be a closure below the support. So if we close below the support, then obviously we bearish, right? And the next level to look at is obviously these lows. So yeah, I mean, we bearish on the 4-hour, we bearish on the daily, but we have not yet seen a retracement. So I'm expecting a retracement. That's why looking at, you know, for Cardano, we're looking at these sells below 0.41, and then Bitcoin. Let me grab Bitcoin here. Yeah, but if you guys have any other charts, just put them in. It is coming to the end of the session, so what I'm going to do now is just go over the coins that obviously that I've analyzed, just so you guys can put them in your charts, and then I think we can call it a session. Normally we do trade a trade within a session, but because of what is happening at the moment, you know, we couldn't break above the zone here. So for Bitcoin, remember we're waiting for this 15-minute closure above the zone. So this is the setup for Bitcoin, just so you guys can know. We're looking for longs above here. We didn't get that closure. And then we're looking for sells below, you know, 28,600. So make sure you put this in your chart. Make sure you also like the stream. I can see there's 643 people here. Make sure you put a like. I only see 100 likes. That's a sixth of the way. So please like the stream. And yeah, I'm looking for sells below 28,600. Once we get a 4-hour or a 1-hour closure below here, you can take sells back down to 27,700, and that is the setup I'm looking at. So that's Bitcoin. Filecoin. If you look at Filecoin, yeah, these are the two setups looking at for Filecoin, right? Bars above, you know, 5.838, and then sells below, you know, 5.693. Okay. And this is based on the 1-hour time frame. So remember, so it's actually 3 setups. Bars above here, take sells back down or sells back down to 5.461. Okay, so 3 setups I'm looking at here for Filecoin. Make sure you put them in your chart. buys above 5.838, sells below 5.693, and potential sells if we break above there. But you can see how choppy it is at the moment. Price doesn't really know what's happening, doesn't know what it wants to do. Obviously, a lot of buyers and sellers are currently fighting at the current price. Okay, ARB, we're looking for that sell below 1.4673, and yeah, ARB will have to wait for that 1 hour closure. Once we get a 1 hour closure below 1.4673, we can take sells back down to 1.3466. Okay, so that's something I'm looking at the moment. And Chainlink was the other one we're looking at. Yeah, Chainlink, very interesting also. Sells at 7.950, but also potentially sells below here, okay? Because it looks like we're just getting rejected from these zones. Bitcoin's also struggling. So the momentum to the upside is definitely, it's losing steam, right? So what that means is a lot of the long positions are actually getting stopped out, and there's more sellers in the market. So yeah, we will be more on the sell side within the next couple of days than the buy side, but I am looking for that retracement, like I said earlier. Okay. So yeah, that's the setup for Chainlink, and then Solana we had a nice setup as well, looking for sells below 22.44. Back down to 19.97. So this setup, it's around about a 10-11% move. Okay, so this is also just based on the total 2 market cap. Like I said earlier, once the total 2 market cap closes below this 614 level, we're going to see huge dumps in the markets. So we need to be careful to look at the more of the long side of things. So that's something that I'm looking at. Filecoin, I went over Filecoin. Matic, looking for potential long above 1.0940, and then obviously APT, looking for long above 11.4599, and then the potential short at 11.9844. Okay, so I'm looking at quite a few positions here. Obviously, if you guys maybe just pick a coin and then put that on your charts, and then you can trade it, because essentially one of these setups will happen. So obviously looking at multiple charts is hard. So just choose a chart that you want to go over. But yeah, I think we could in the stream, if you guys have any other charts to go over, just put them in the chat. If not, I do appreciate you guys joining in today. And we are planning to do this once a week. We do have US traders as well. So I'm currently based in Dubai. And there will be, every week, we're going to have a different trader that's actually going to analyze the market. So if you guys did enjoy this today, yeah, we appreciate you being here. I can see there's over like 600 people, which is crazy. And yeah, thanks again for joining today. I hope you guys did have the time to get these setups. What we are going to do, we do have, I did record this video, so we're going to be posting it on the YouTube. And you guys can go back and take a look at the setups if you didn't miss it. So yeah, thanks again for being here, and yeah, I'll see you guys next week for another setup. Yeah, and also we on the YouTube we do have at 5 p.m. Dubai time, which is 9 a.m. Eastern time. We do have a YouTube live where myself and Boris, which is a US trader that is currently working for CoinW, we have a live session where we're going to speak about the current market conditions and potentially take some trades within that session. Obviously today we're looking at that setup, but we got rejected. So if you're keen for that, if you want more information about these setups and you want to learn about if the market is actually topped out or not, join the CoinW Exchange YouTube session tonight at around 5 p.m. Dubai time, 9 a.m. Eastern time. So that will be later today. And yeah, thanks again for joining, and I'll see you guys next week for another session. Yeah.